Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. The purpose for this really was that the countdown to Rosh Hashana has begun, and strange and unusual times call for unusual initiatives. With 10,000 Shluchim around the world, 5,000 Chabad centers in over 100 countries, we know that if anybody could think of it, a Chabad emissary somewhere has come up with it. We have all kinds of initiatives happening to bring Rosh Hashana to the public. I don't need to talk here about why this Rosh Hashana is so different, but I did want to hear from each of you a little bit about what you're doing that you never expected to do, or that is going to bring Rosh Hashana to your people, or bring your people to Rosh Hashana in these fraught times of a global pandemic. So let's begin with Rabbi Shmuley Nachlas. Okay, I should introduce each of you. Rabbi Shmuley Nachlas is the executive director of Jewish Youth, of the Jewish Youth Network of Ontario, Canada. Did I get that right? Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so welcome. Tell us a little bit about what your plans are for this Rosh Hashana.
So it's interesting because on a regular year, we're a youth center, and being a youth center year round, one of the things we actually do not deal with at all is holiday services. It's really out of our purview. We very much encourage all the youth and teens and alumni to try and help them find the local Chabad house or services closest to them, whatever they could find. And that's what we've been doing for many years. This year, it's checking in with a lot of alumni. Pretty much from everybody, I got the same message, and that was, Rabbi, you know, this year it's just not happening. Where it's not safe, or it's just they're not doing it. So
yes, let me just. I guess that's probably different because of the demographic that you're dealing with. Because it seems to me that with other age groups, people who never go to synagogue make sure to come that once a year. So they don't need to be as encouraged, but you're dealing with teens for the most part.
Teens and young adults. Throughout, high holidays is certainly the time that many more people do go than typically, of course. But even those that normally would go regularly on high holidays, this year, because of the pandemic and because of COVID, and Canada may be different than other places. Every place is different, but overall, the general approach in Canada is very cautious and extremely careful. And that got me thinking. And I said, you know what, if we can't encourage everybody to go to shul because they're not comfortable this year, let's figure out a way to, at least the main mitzvah, as we all know, is shofar. And this year it's actually interesting because it's only the one day. Only Sunday, so it's really just they could daven and do all that at home, but let's see if we could find a way. And there's actually a unique opportunity in this, which you wouldn't have in other years, to really take shofar to the next level. Let's do something crazy about the mitzvah that we could have access to, and we could do. And more than that, it's the mitzvah specifically, like you stand at a good distance, and everybody could be safe, and it could be really good. So that really made us think, and we launched this program called Shofar on the Corner. My initial goals with Shofar on the Corner was to enable a platform that anybody, especially in a city like Toronto, or for that matter, any big city, it could be used as well, but where there's a lot of people who know how to blow the shofar, or could polish up their knowledge on how to blow the shofar, could enable many other people to hear the shofar on Rosh Hashana. So we built this platform so that in many places throughout the city, you could have people blowing shofar. They could just say, hey, I'll be on this and this corner at this and this time. And whoever wants to RSVP and say, hey, I'm coming, then boom, there you go. It's outdoors.
It's a WhatsApp.
No, it's a website. It's shofaronthecorner.com. And basically, so as a shofar blower, you could go in and just put in your location, and many have post their location, a park, a corner, an intersection, a parking lot, whatever it may be. And then people could RSVP and say, we'll be there. We're coming with 5, we're coming with 10, we're coming with 20. And it was amazing. Like some of the locations picked up 80, 90 people within a couple of days. And I was like, this is nuts. So what happened is really it picked up a lot here in Thornhill Woods, Toronto, North York, all the areas in and around them. Because it was an open platform, people started using it outside of Toronto as well. And now you have, I think, 15, 20 states of people that have posted locations in California and Illinois and a bunch of other places, some places in Israel, South Africa. And I guess really anybody who wants to use it, they could share it with others. And it's as big or as small as people will want to use. I mean, from my standpoint, what it's done is that pretty much almost every half a kilometer in the greater Toronto area, there's a shofar blowing this year. We were getting, 10, 20, 30 RSVPs 2 weeks ago. Now we're getting 300-400 a day, and it's growing exponentially. So we jumped close to 2,000 soon, and I believe we'll probably be closer to 10,000 or 8,000. I think in the next couple of days, the way it's going.
So ironically, this year you're going to have more people hearing the shofar than you would have.
Probably, yes. I think that really what the key is here, the unique thing about this is almost like an Uber concept where you have something that the people really want inside the heart. Every Yid really wants to hear shofar. It's a special time. It's, the etzem hanefesh is there. So it's sort of bringing the need and bringing the two parties together. They're just waiting for someone just to create that facility to bring them together. And that's really all we did. And it's Baruch Hashem, it really turned out to something nice.
Fascinating. Rabbi Mendel Matasov, director of Chabad at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
As of a week ago, there's a complete lockdown on campus, essentially, because there was a big spike. Many campuses across the country, lots of the dorms are in complete quarantine. Hundreds of Jewish students on campus are in actual quarantine now. There's nothing, we can't do anything in person for students indoors or outdoors. But really, the planning for Rosh Hashana started, weeks ago before this actual lockdown, knowing that the limit of 25 people outdoors isn't going to cut it for an event that last year we had 470. So basically the concept we figured is we have to create Rosh Hashana dinners for students to celebrate in pods. I mean, of course, we could just say, okay, Rosh Hashana to go. Everybody comes and picks up a dinner, but that's not a Yom Tov meal. That's not celebratory. That's not the way Yom Tov is meant to be celebrated. That's not the way Rosh Hashana is meant to be celebrated. It should be celebrated with friends and in a warm community atmosphere. So we figured, well, let's create pods. Now, once we're creating these pods, we said, well, then maybe we could sort of build off of that and create a broad communal sense through these. What we ended up coming up with was where we encourage students to sign up as hosts, to create pods and then sign up as hosts, one person within each group that they're going to host their friends. We provide the dinner, so we're providing the challah and the apples and the honey and the brisket and the kugel and the dessert and the salad and the whole thing. So we're providing the meal, the grape juice and the candles, of course, for Shabbos candlelighting and Yom Tov candlelighting. But we're providing it in groups so that they get them in these groups, and they're going to have group meals. Now, what we asked everybody to do was to plan on starting their meal at 6:30, even though candlelighting is not until 6:50 here. So
how many students so far do you have doing this?
So right now we have 93 hosts. So we're anticipating probably it'll be about 700 students total.
Wow.
Some are
93
2 or 3.
hosting.
93 hosts, people signed up as hosts.
In their dorm rooms, in their
apartments, dorms, fraternities, sororities, wherever they are, yeah.
And who's preparing the dinner?
Truly, and yours truly's significant other, and we can't even have volunteers. In the past, we would have relied on lots of students coming and volunteering. Lots of students would be happy to come, but a lot of students who were lined up to volunteer are now in quarantine. Last year we had 120 pounds of brisket, and this year we have 220 pounds of brisket. We also want there to be, more than just the community aspect and the food when they're sitting with their peers. So first of all, at the dinner itself, of course, we can't use Zoom as soon as Shabbos begins, as soon as it's candlelighting. But we asked everybody to join 20 minutes before candlelighting, where we're actually going to have a community Zoom where all these dinners are on campus will join together. to create a communal sense that, first of all, we're all in this together. We're all celebrating Rosh Hashanah as one. It's an opportunity to talk about Rosh Hashanah, talk about the themes of Rosh Hashanah, provide some Jewish content and Yiddishkeit. Of course, in addition to what we're actually going to be putting in their to-go box that they're going to pick up, which includes Jewish identity activities for them to do with each other and for Torah to read and various things to discuss at dinner if they hopefully take us up on that. And then, of course, finish the Zoom call before candlelighting with the sort of that push of everyone now go and light the candles that we gave you in your box. Light your candles and make the bracha, the special bracha this week because of Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah and the Shechianu. And then, as you mentioned, and then as you brought up regarding what happens afterwards. So unfortunately, we don't have outdoor space. The downtown campus Madison area is a very urban setting. We don't have backyards here. I have a very small courtyard. So we were planning on doing indoor davening spread out. Unfortunately, we can't. There is another Chabad only a mile and a half away, the community Chabad house. That's where we're going for services. They have a big outdoor tent. We're not allowed to safely, and we can't safely host davening this year. What we are doing is shofar blowing, very similar to what Rabbi Nachla said, and that is I was unaware of the website, but the idea of shofar on the corner, we're basically listing a bunch of different places around campus where we're going to be blowing shofar at various locations throughout campus on Sunday, and students can come in and hear the shofar blowing. Hopefully they will. We're going to encourage them on the Zoom so we'll have, right before Rosh Hashanah begins, encourage them, and hopefully we see them on Sunday for shofar blowing. As we begin 5781, and it'll lead to a very Jewish year, and a
sense of community that you're able to foster at a time like this.
And God willing, when we're able to, we'll actually be able to host all these 700 people in-house.
I'm going to want to ask you all, before I get to Rabbi Kaplan, a little bit about what the fact that this year, the first day of Rosh Hashanah is Shabbos, there is no shofar blowing. So I imagine that created a certain kind of challenge to make sure that people who come one day, usually the first day, will actually come the second day to hear shofar. I wonder if that's created a challenge for any of you.
The fact that we don't blow shofar on the first day and it's only the second day, and people learned that people had to learn that this year for the first time or pay attention to it. We grow up with that, we know that, but a lot of people, it's like, well, what happens to the first day? So all of a sudden they have to get educated to figure out, because there aren't services and what's happening. It's almost like it's made us, in so many other areas in life as well, zone into the essence of what everything really is, cuts around everything. So High Holidays has this big hoo-ha and hype and all that, and it is very important. But what is it? What's the, Itzum Yom, what is the biggest thing? What's the mitzvah of the day where people had to look around and what's going on? This whole shofar on the corner is only one day. What's happening here? We got lots of people asking us, and it's a great learning experience, and it really brings everybody to what is the mitzvah of today. It's shofar. Let's zone in and let's figure it out.
Okay, Rabbi Kaplan. Rabbi Kaplan, I saved you for last. Let me just introduce you. Rabbi Kaplan is the director of Chabad of Northwest Bergen County, New Jersey.
First off, I really enjoyed listening to Rabbi Nachlas and Rabbi Matasov speak, because that's really an arena that I'm not involved in. I'm a community shliach, and whereas I would say that the majority of shluchim do serve communities, I don't get much of a perspective on what happens on campus and what's happening with the youth demographic. And it's fascinating to listen to, and I commend you for everything that you're doing. To the shluchim who are in communities, it's a world in and of itself. And really with COVID hitting communities and families and shutting everything down, there's, like everywhere else, there is an impact, but the impact is felt differently. And I think that it's different today, vastly different than it was 3 months ago too. If from Pesach, when we began our first initiatives to really bring the holidays to people in the places that they would observe them at home rather than in their typical center, which would be Chabad in this case, we operated on an incredible level for about 3 months, where everything that we did was designed with the people stuck at home in mind. We distributed thousands of Shabbos packages. We did distributions of tens of thousands of masks to the broader community, but also supplied PPE to the first responders, and just I mean, a slew of things on Zoom and all over, but everything designed around COVID. And since the end of May, when we first purchased the tent, since I understood at that point that we were in for the long haul, I've been attempting to buck the trend and bring people back into the traditional model. And the reason is because I think that for many people, both in their own lives, but also communally, things played themselves out. They had the COVID, they had the experience, they were locked down. I'm sorry?
They're zoomed out.
Yeah, they're zoomed out and they felt, repressed. And it's not to suggest that everybody's life returned to normal. In fact, schools here have not yet opened in person. So there's definitely still a very heavy sense of gloom that dominates the discourse in people's lives. But towards the end of the summer, we began toning down everything that we were doing online. In fact, though I had classes every week, I stopped Zooming them because I didn't want Zoom to be an option anymore. I knew that before we created a trend that became too entrenched to reverse, I needed to begin making efforts to bring people back and to normalize life in our communities. And I recognize today that there are people who are not coming now, and some of them will likely never come back. And to the extent that we continue down that road, we may further entrench that behavior and really change our communities in irreversible patterns.
So what kind of things did you have to put in place to go back to some semblance of normal routine?
Everything is being done in a safe manner, and we're doing everything, although not the minyan itself, but the kiddush is being done outside. Everything is set in the tent in a way that when you sit down, and then you can take your mask off if you're eating, but when you're standing, you have to have a mask on. You have stations all around Chabad where you can sanitize your hands. You have masks which are being given out at the door. So we're doing everything to really keep people safe, but we've kind of been operating, at least in the late summer, at a pretty typical pace. And also I recognize that people are doing many of these things on their own, and there seems to be sometimes only one place that they're refraining from coming to, and that's the shul. Mm-hmm. So I have to make this as normal as possible so that people consider this to be an important part of their life. And just like they're going to Starbucks and they're going to the hair salon and they're going to other places, they should feel comfortable and normal about coming back to shul.
So how many are you expecting this Rosh Hashana?
So normally we have 500 plus. This year we have reserved around 280, 290. There may be more people who will come to Shofar in the Park, for example, who I'm not familiar with at the moment. So we're definitely at a diminished pace, but what we're doing is we have a regular expedited minyan, which is indoors, and that begins at 8 a.m. And we will hopefully be completed by 10:30. The main crowd is coming outdoors. We have a 4,000 square foot tent, complete with flooring and lighting, of course. And we're going to have that set up in pods. And this is not going to be a service. This is going to be more of a substitute program that will include a sermon. It will include some spiritual things. That we're going to be giving out bags with supplies of whatever we're going to be using. We will have, I won't call it a machzor because our machzorim are staying on the shelf. The first day, obviously, there won't be shofar. And in fact, I made it clear to people that if they were only going to come on one day, because that's what most people do, they come the second day instead of the first, so at least they would be fulfilling the mitzvah of shofar. So our second day crowd is nearly double the first day crowd. And then we have on the first day, we have another program which is specifically for children, because I couldn't invite children to that 1 hour program since everyone has to sit in place and we have adults who are going to be there. I had to assure them nobody's going to be walking around and this is going to be a safe place to be. That third service will have children. So only those who are bringing children will be there. It's a more limited crowd as well. So the concern of children running around, although it's a real concern, everyone who's there has children. So they understand what that means, and they're not, they won't be upset by it. They won't be unnerved by it. The second day, that's going to be switched out for shofar in the park. Mm-hmm. So we have a park that also has a pond, not that it's at the stream that runs into a pond. So we'll be doing shofar and tashlich together. And what's interesting is we're having a good number of adults who are coming to that who would normally come to services. Being in the park offers them a neutral and seemingly safe place to be where they can stand at any distance of their choosing and fulfill the mitzvah of shofar.
I wanted to ask each of you if you could give me in just really a few words what your message is going to be this year. Your Rosh Hashana message is going to be. Rabbi Nachman.
My message to everybody, or my message to the youth of the community, and certainly for anybody who wants to listen, is really that Rosh Hashana is a day of strength. It's a day of connection, and it's a day of resolution. So while there's many challenges around us, it's very clear that there's always a solution to be able to observe our Yiddishkeit in whatever way they can. But most importantly is what's going to be their New Year's resolution. You can't bring a tiny little cup over to a fire hydrant. Hashem is going to bless us with an amazing year of beautiful blessings. And we need to do our little part to make a vessel to receive them. So I implore everybody that this Rosh Hashanah, wherever you are, if you're in the park, if you're under a tent, if you're in shul or out of shul, wherever you are, close your eyes when you listen to the shofar and make a big vessel, make a resolution to be a better Jew, to be a good Yid, and whatever that means for you. And Hashem should bless you all that we should have the vessels, Kelim Reikim Al Tamiti, we should have big vessels to be able to handle huge, huge blessings that are coming our way this year.
Amen. Rabbi Matisov.
Well, I would just jump off of what Rabbi Nachman said, the idea of taking time for reflection and resolution, and specifically, I think a critical aspect of that is the focus on Jewish identity, and that they take resolutions to strengthen the Jewish identity, and that specifically entails uniquely Jewish acts. Yiddishkeit includes mitzvahs that have very general global appeal and meaning, but that ultimately, if in order to strengthen our uniquely Jewish identity, we have to make sure that we have a part of our lives uniquely Jewish acts, things that we only do and only make sense to do because we're Jewish. That everyone needs something that they do that they only do because they're Jewish in order to strengthen their Jewish identity.
Rabbi Kaplan.
We've lived through very unique times, and very unique times offer us a unique opportunity to recalibrate and to reassess who we are, what we're here for, what we're needed for. And time is not circular, time is a spiral, spiraling upwards. And so with new energy that is given to us by the Eibishter for this year, we can make the most of this new opportunity.
Thank you all very much. Rabbi Nachlas, I just want viewers to know the name of the website in case they want to put in their location for a shofar blowing.
Shofaronthecorner.com.
Thank you all very much. A Shana Tova. Thank you, and good luck with all your activities.
Thank you.
Blessed Rosh Hashanah.
Thank you.
Thank you.